Mom tries to trade earring for milk at market, and owner rewards her with a beautiful gesture. Jennifer Thompson held her son tightly as her hands trembled while removing the last earring from her ear. Little Ethan whimpered softly in her arms, and she knew she had no other options left. That's when she placed the small golden jewelry on the counter of Joseph's Market in the Newtown neighborhood of Chicago. The owner of the store, Robert Wilson, a 52-year-old man with graying hair and tired eyes, examined the piece with an expression she couldn't decipher. "Please, Mr. Wilson, just 1 liter of milk. My son hasn't eaten in hours, and I don't have any money," said Jennifer, trying to steady her voice as it threatened to break. The shopkeeper picked up the earring with his thick fingers and studied it carefully. For a few seconds, it seemed like he would accept the trade. But then he pushed the jewelry back toward her. "This isn't a pawn shop, miss. If you don't have money, I can't help you. I work as a house cleaner, but the lady who hired me went on a trip and won't be back until next month. I'm not asking for free, I'm offering something in exchange," insisted Jennifer, feeling tears burn her eyes. Mrs. Beatrice, a 70-year-old woman standing in line behind her, stepped forward with a concerned look. "Robert, for heaven's sake, it's just 1 liter of milk. The child is in need." "Stay out of it, Mrs. Beatrice, mind your own business," he replied, without even glancing at the elderly woman. Ethan began crying louder, and other customers in the small line murmured among themselves. Jennifer felt the weight of their stares, pity mixed with discomfort. She hugged her son tighter, trying to soothe him. "I haven't eaten in 2 days, so he could at least have a bottle last night. Please, have a heart," pleaded Jennifer, her voice now quiet and choked. Robert looked at the young woman, about 25 years old, with a simple scarf covering part of her brown hair and clothes that were clean but patched. Something stirred in his chest, but he had long learned to ignore such feelings. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, he picked up the earring again and tucked it into the pocket of his plaid shirt. "There, I've taken your earring," he said, crossing his arms. Jennifer sighed in relief and reached out, expecting to receive the milk. "Now you can leave, I don't want any trouble in my store," Robert added, turning his back on her. Silence filled the market. Jennifer stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Mrs. Beatrice placed a hand on her shoulder. "Shame on you, Robert. How could you do such a thing?" the older woman exclaimed. "It's my store and I'll do as I please," he retorted, rearranging some cans on the shelf without looking back. Jennifer stumbled out of the market with Ethan in her arms. Tears now streamed freely down her face as she sat on the sidewalk in front of the store. She didn't know what to do anymore. She had lost her last valuable possession and still had no milk for her son. Ethan cried non-stop, a weak cry that spoke of hunger and thirst. Jennifer rocked him gently, whispering words of comfort that did little to soothe him. A few passers-by glanced at her with pity, but no one stopped to help. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. 15 minutes passed when Jennifer heard footsteps behind her. It was Robert, who had stepped out of the market and stood in the doorway, looking at her with an expression different from before. "You," he called, his voice less harsh. "Come back inside." Jennifer hesitated. She didn't want to face more humiliation, but she also had nowhere else to go. She stood up slowly and followed Robert back into the store, where the other customers had been helped, and now they were alone. "Come with me to the back," he said, pointing to a door behind the counter. She followed him down a narrow hallway until they reached a small room that seemed to be an office. The walls were covered in old papers, receipts, and a few photos. Robert stopped in front of a frame on the wall and pointed at it with his finger. "Look at this picture," he said, his voice oddly choked up. Jennifer stepped closer and saw the image of a beautiful woman, around 40 years old, smiling at the camera. On her earlobes were 2 golden earrings, identical to the one Jennifer had tried to exchange. "Who is she?" Jennifer asked, confused. "That was my wife, Catherine. She passed 3 years ago," Robert answered, swallowing hard. "Those earrings you have, they're just like hers." A shiver ran down Jennifer's spine. She looked back at the photo and then at Robert, who had taken the earring from his pocket and was holding it in his palm. "This can't be a coincidence," she murmured. "These earrings were my grandmother's. She left them to me when she passed, said they were a family heirloom, passed down from mother to daughter for generations." Robert leaned on the desk, as if his legs could no longer hold him up. "Catherine used to say the same thing, that the earrings came from her grandmother, and her great-grandmother before that." He paused, staring intently at the piece. "What's your full name?" "Jennifer Thompson Anderson, but my grandmother's name was Elizabeth Miller Johnson before she married." "Elizabeth Miller," Robert repeated slowly. "Catherine used to talk about a distant cousin with that name. Said they lost touch a long time ago because of some family feud that happened before she was born." Jennifer felt her heart race. Her grandmother had indeed mentioned relatives they'd lost contact with due to old misunderstandings, but she never knew the details. "So you're saying your wife and my grandmother were cousins?" "You and Catherine were family," Robert finished, running a hand through his graying hair. "And I just treated her cousin's granddaughter like some stranger." Ethan had stopped crying and was now looking curiously at Robert, who stepped closer and held out a finger to the child. The boy grabbed it with his tiny hands. "How old is he?" Robert asked, his voice softer now. "A year and a half," Jennifer answered, still processing the revelation. "His name is Ethan." "Ethan," he repeated, as if testing the sound of the name. "Catherine always wanted grandchildren, said our house was too quiet." "You didn't have children?" Robert hesitated before answering, a shadow of pain crossing his eyes. "We had a daughter, Rachel, but she hasn't spoken to me in 3 years, not since Catherine passed." Jennifer saw the deep sadness in the man's face and felt her initial anger turn to compassion. There was more to the story than met the eye. "Listen, Jennifer," Robert said, addressing her by name again. "I need help here at the market. Catherine always helped me with the business, organizing things, serving customers. Since she's been gone, everything's been harder. Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering a fair trade. You help me here a few hours a day and I'll provide food for you and Ethan. It's not charity, it's honest work." Jennifer looked at Ethan, who was now playing with Robert's finger, and then at the earring he still held. The situation was too strange to be a coincidence. Maybe fate was trying to give her an opportunity. "I accept," she said finally, "but only until I can get back on my feet and find something permanent." "Deal," Robert agreed, extending his hand to her. "You can start tomorrow morning, at 7 o'clock. He walked over to a small refrigerator in the corner of the room and took out a liter of milk, along with some fruit and bread. He placed everything in a bag and handed it to Jennifer. "For today. Tomorrow we'll talk more about the routine." Jennifer took the bag with eyes brimming with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Wilson, thank you so much." "Don't thank me yet. I don't know how picky I can be to work with," he said, trying to make a joke, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, Jennifer prepared a bottle for Ethan in the small room she rented at Mrs. Margaret's house, a widowed woman who charged little for the space in exchange for some housework. As her son drank quietly, she thought about the strange coincidence of the day, the family earrings, the market, Robert, and the wife who had passed away. Everything seemed connected in a way she couldn't quite understand. There was something more to his story. She could feel it. The pain in his eyes when he spoke of his daughter Rachel was too deep to be just a simple disagreement. The next morning, Jennifer arrived promptly at 7. Robert was already opening the store, arranging fruits and vegetables outside. He nodded at her, a curt but not unfriendly greeting. "First day on the job," he said. "I'll explain how things work here." He took her inside to see the market. It was a small but well-organized shop with basic goods: rice, beans, milk, bread, fruits, vegetables, and some cleaning supplies. There was a refrigerator with drinks and a few frozen items. Catherine mostly handled the register and customer service. "I took care of inventory and suppliers," Robert explained. "Since she's been gone, I've been doing it all alone. That's why I'm sometimes short with customers." "And Rachel, your daughter never wanted to help?" Robert's face closed off immediately. "Rachel has her own ideas about life. She prefers to stay away from here." Jennifer realized she'd touched a sore spot. and decided not to press further. Instead, she focused on learning the store's routines. Ethan stayed in a corner in his stroller, watching everything curiously. The first customers started arriving around 8. Jennifer noticed how they looked at her in surprise behind the counter, some murmuring among themselves. Mrs. Beatrice was one of the first. "Hello, dear. So good to see you here today. And in much better shape than yesterday," the woman said with a warm smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Beatrice. Mr. Wilson gave me a job." "How wonderful. This market has been needing a woman's touch again. It was so different when Mrs. Catherine was alive." Jennifer noticed how Robert stiffened at Mrs. Beatrice's comment. He walked away to organize some products on a distant shelf, clearly avoiding the conversation. Throughout the morning, other customers made similar remarks. Everyone seemed to have a special fondness for Catherine and showed concern for Robert since she'd passed. Jennifer began to understand that the market wasn't just a business in the community, it was a kind of social hub for the neighborhood. Around 11, a woman in her 50s entered the store. She had dyed blonde hair, well-kept clothes, and a posture that suggested more financial means than most regular customers. "Good morning," she said, looking directly at Jennifer. "You're new here?" "Yes, I am. I just started helping Mr. Wilson today," Jennifer replied politely. "Interesting," the woman murmured, picking up a few items from the shelf. "It's been a long time since he hired anyone." Robert appeared from the back of the store at that moment and stopped abruptly when he saw the customer. "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" "Just buying a few things, obviously," she replied, in a tone Jennifer recognized as provocative. "Didn't know you were hiring employees. That's none of your business." "Everything involving Joseph's Market is my business, Robert. You know that." Jennifer felt the tension in the air and pretended to be busy organizing some shelves while listening to the conversation. There was something between these two people she didn't understand. "Vanessa, let's not have this discussion here," said Robert, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm not arguing. Just reminding you there are certain obligations you took on." The woman paid for her items and left the store without another word, but not before giving Jennifer and Ethan an assessing look. "Who was that?" Jennifer asked once they were alone. "No one important," Robert answered, but his reply sounded evasive. "Better not worry about it." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers out. Now, back to the story. The rest of the morning passed quietly, but Jennifer couldn't shake off the encounter with Vanessa. There was something Robert wasn't telling her, and she was starting to realize his life was far more complicated than it seemed. At lunchtime, Robert told her she could take an hour's break. Jennifer used the time to feed Ethan and take a short walk around the neighborhood. That's when she found Mrs. Beatrice sitting on a bench in the little square across from the market. "Mind if I sit here?" Jennifer asked. "Of course, dear. How's your first day going?" "Good, I think I'm adjusting, but can I ask you something about Mr. Wilson?" Mrs. Beatrice glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "You can ask, but I might not answer everything. Some things are very personal. It's about his daughter, Rachel. He said they haven't spoken in 3 years, and today a woman named Vanessa showed up talking about obligations." "Oh, child," Mrs. Beatrice sighed. "It's a sad story. Rachel blames her father for Catherine's passing. But why? Catherine got sick, cancer. Robert worked day and night to pay for her treatment, but she didn't make it. Rachel thought her father cared more about the store than her mother, that he didn't give her enough attention in her last moments." Jennifer's heart ached. She was beginning to understand the deep sorrow in Robert's eyes. "And Vanessa?" "Oh, that's another complicated story. How do I put it? She lent Robert money when Catherine was sick. A lot of money. And now she's collecting in a way that, well, it's not just money she wants back." "What do you mean?" "Vanessa's always had an interest in Robert, even when Catherine was alive. Now that he's a widower and owes her money, you understand, don't you?" Jennifer understood perfectly. Vanessa was using the debt to pressure Robert somehow. That explained his discomfort when she showed up at the store. "And his daughter? Where is she?" "Rachel moved to Indianapolis after her mother passed, works at a company there and rebuilt her life, wants nothing to do with her father or the market. Says this place only brings back bad memories. When Jennifer returned to the store, she looked at Robert with new eyes. She now saw a man who had fought to save his wife, lost his daughter in the process, and still carried the weight of debts that tied him to an uncomfortable situation. In the afternoon, the store got busier with customers. Jennifer noticed how Robert knew everyone by name, remembered their preferences, and asked about their families. Behind his rough exterior was a man who genuinely cared about the community. An elderly customer came in without enough money to pay for her groceries. Jennifer saw Mr. Wilson discreetly lower the total on the bill, allowing her to take everything she needed. When the lady left, she remarked, "She didn't notice you gave her a discount. Mrs. Rose has diabetes and high blood pressure. Her husband's been out of work for 6 months. Some things are more important than profit," he replied, avoiding Jennifer's gaze. "So you're not as tough as you pretend to be. Don't get used to it. Yesterday I almost let your son go hungry. But you didn't. In the end, you helped us." Mr. Wilson stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "You know why I really took your earring and didn't give you the milk right away? Why? Because when I saw that earring, for a second, I thought Catherine had come back, that it was some message from her to me. I was angry at you for not being her, for messing with my head. That was cruel of me." Jennifer felt his heart through his words, the pain of someone who still hadn't fully accepted his loss. "Catherine is still here, Mr. Wilson. In the people she touched, in the memories she left behind, in the love you built together." "Pretty words don't bring anyone back," he said, turning back to his work. "No, they don't. But they can help heal the hearts of those left behind." That night, after closing the store, Mr. Wilson insisted on walking Jennifer to Mrs. Margaret's house. The neighborhood could be dangerous after dark, especially for a woman alone with a child. "You don't have to. I always walk back alone," Jennifer said. "Catherine would kill me if she knew I let her cousin walk alone at night," he replied, and for the first time Jennifer saw the faintest hint of a smile on his face. During the 5-minute walk, Ethan slept in Jennifer's arms as they talked about everyday things. Mr. Wilson asked about her life, how she'd ended up in this situation. Ethan's father left before he was born, found out he was going to be a dad, and disappeared. "My mother passed when I was 16, and my grandmother raised me until she passed 2 years ago. Since then, it's just been me and Ethan. It's hard raising a child alone. It is, but it's also what gives me the strength to keep going. He needs me." Catherine always said that about Rachel, that being a mother was the most important thing in her life. And Rachel? What was she like as a child? Happy, curious, full of dreams. She wanted to be a vet, to take care of animals. Catherine and I did everything so she could study, so she could follow her dreams. And did she? She did. Graduated, got a good job. But when Catherine got sick, she came home to help. Saw her mother fading day after day and thought it was my fault for not being there enough. "You were working to pay for her treatment." Exactly. But Rachel didn't see it that way. She saw a father who'd rather be at the store than at the hospital, who came home too tired to talk, too worried about bills to pay attention to his sick wife. "But you were doing the best you could," that's what I thought. But maybe she was partly right. Maybe I got the balance wrong between working to save Catherine and being there for her in her last moments. They arrived at Mrs. Margaret's house, and Mr. Wilson waited for Jennifer to go inside before leaving. She carried Ethan upstairs to their small room, where he continued sleeping soundly. As she laid him in the makeshift crib, Jennifer thought about their conversation. Mr. Wilson carried a heavy burden of guilt, and it wasn't just affecting his relationship with his daughter, it was shaping how he saw life itself. The next day, Jennifer arrived at Joseph's Market and found Mr. Wilson talking to a man in a suit she didn't recognize. The conversation seemed tense, and as she approached, she caught the tail end of it. "One more month, Robert. After this, we'll have to take other measures," said the man, adjusting his tie. "I've already told you I'm doing everything I can, Michael. I can't pull money out of thin air." Vanessa is being patient, but her patience has limits, especially after she found out you hired an employee. Money to pay a worker, but not to settle the debt? Michael left the store without greeting Jennifer, who pretended not to have paid attention to the conversation. But it was clear that Robert's financial troubles were worse than she had imagined. "Good morning," she said, trying to sound normal. "Good morning," he replied, but he was visibly upset. "I'll be in the stockroom today. Can you handle the front?" "Of course, no problem." All morning, Robert stayed in the back of the store, shuffling papers and doing calculations. Jennifer could hear him muttering to himself, clearly stressed about the financial situation. Around 10 o'clock, a young woman of about 25 entered the store. She had curly hair, glasses, and a determined expression. She looked around as if searching for someone specific. "Excuse me, is Mr. Wilson here?" she asked. "Yes, but he's busy in the back. Can I help with something?" "Actually, I'd prefer to speak with him personally. It's about a private matter." Jennifer went to get Robert, who reluctantly came out from the stockroom. When he saw the young woman, his face visibly paled. "Rachel," he said, his voice barely audible. "Hi, Dad," she replied, her tone flat. The silence that followed was awkward. Jennifer realized she was witnessing the first meeting between father and daughter in 3 years. She discreetly stepped away with Ethan, giving them some privacy, but she couldn't help overhearing the conversation. "What are you doing here?" Robert asked, clearly shaken. "I need to talk to you. About the store, about some things. After 3 years without a word, now you want to talk? Don't make this harder than it already is, Dad. I didn't come here for a family reunion. I came to discuss business." The coldness in Rachel's voice cut like a blade. Jennifer saw the pain in Robert's eyes and wanted to intervene, but she knew it wasn't her place. "What kind of business?" he asked, suspicious. "I heard you owe Vanessa money, a lot of money, and that she's pressuring you. How do you know that?" "I have my contacts in the neighborhood. Mrs. Beatrice called me last week, worried about you." Robert looked at the door as if considering running away. "What do you want, Rachel?" "I want to help you pay off that debt, but in return I want my share of the store. I want you to sell this place and we each move on with our lives." The proposal landed like a bombshell. Robert was silent for several seconds, processing what he'd just heard. "Sell the store? This store is all that's left of your mother and me. It's where we built our life together. This store is where Mom worked herself to exhaustion, where you spent more time than at home, where she was alone while you cared more about customers than her. That's not true, Rachel, isn't it? How many times was Mom sick and you didn't notice because you were too busy with inventory? How many times did she ask you to spend more time at home and you said the store needed you? I was working for both of you. Everything I did was to give you a better life. And in the end, Mom passed alone while you were here doing inventory." Rachel's shout echoed through the store. Jennifer saw tears welling in both their eyes, father and daughter wounded by grievances that had festered over 3 years of silence. "Your mother didn't pass alone," Robert said, his voice breaking. "I was there. I held her hand until the very end. After spending the whole day here, after working to pay for the last experimental treatment the doctors offered, do you think it was easy for me to leave her at the hospital while I came here counting pennies to see if I could scrape together the money?" Rachel stopped shouting, but the tears kept falling. "You always loved this store more than us. Your mother was my life. This store was just the means to give our family a decent life. When she passed, I thought about burning it all down and leaving. Do you know why I didn't? Why? Because every corner of this place holds her memory. The way she arranged the fruit, how she knew every customer by name, how she turned this place into a gathering spot for the neighborhood. If I sell the store, it's like selling the last pieces of her I have left. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story." Rachel wiped her tears with the back of her hand and took a deep breath. "Dad, I understand this place holds memories of Mom, but you're drowning in debt, being blackmailed by Vanessa, living like a ghost. Mom would have wanted you to be happy. And you think being happy is easy when you lose the most important person in your life? I don't know, but I know she wouldn't have wanted you to become this, a bitter, lonely man who pushes people away instead of letting them help." Mr. Wilson looked at Rachel as if seeing her for the first time in years. You've grown up. You seem older than you should at 28. Pain does that to us, doesn't it, Dad? Ages you from the inside. At that moment, Ethan started crying, and Jennifer had to step in to calm him down. Rachel noticed her and the child for the first time. "Who is she?" Rachel asked, pointing at Jennifer. "That's Jennifer. She's helping me at the store," Mr. Wilson replied. "And the baby. That's Ethan, her son." He hesitated for a moment. "Jennifer she's family, Rachel. Your mother's cousin." Rachel looked at Jennifer in surprise. "Mom's cousin? What do you mean?" Mr. Wilson quickly explained the story of the earrings and the discovery of their family connection. Rachel listened in silence, processing the information. "So you just showed up here by chance?" she asked Jennifer. "I came because I needed milk for my son and didn't have money. Your dad, Mr. Wilson, helped me. And now you work here?" "For now, yes. Until I get back on my feet." Rachel studied Jennifer carefully, as if trying to decide whether to trust her. "Dad, are you sure she's really Mum's family?" "The earrings are identical, Rachel, and the stories she tells about her grandmother match what your mother told me about her lost cousin. Earrings can be copied. Stories can be made up." Jennifer felt a knot in her stomach. She was being accused of lying, of taking advantage of a vulnerable situation. "I'm not lying," she said, trying to stay calm. "If you want, I can show you other things that belong to my grandmother. I have old photos, letter—" "Rachel, stop this," Mr. Wilson interrupted. "Jennifer is a good person. She's helped me a lot here." "Dad, you're too naive. You wouldn't be the first person taken advantage of in your situation." "My situation? What situation?" "A widowed man in debt with a business. Don't you see how that could attract opportunists?" Jennifer felt a wave of indignation. "Listen here, Rachel. I didn't know your dad had money or a business when I walked into this store. I just wanted milk for my starving son, and if I'm here working, it's because he offered me the chance, not because I asked for it. Oh, sure. The story of the poor little girl who shows up at just the right time with the right earrings." "Enough!" Mr. Wilson shouted, startling both women. "Rachel, you show up here after 3 years of ignoring me. Expect me to sell the store, and on top of that, you attack someone who's been helping me when I needed it most." "Dad, I'm just trying to protect you." "Protect me? Where were you when I needed protection? When I stayed up all night crunching numbers to pay Vanessa's debts? When I cried alone in this place because I had no one to talk to?" Rachel fell silent, clearly struck by her father's words. "And you, Jennifer," Robert continued, turning to her. "You don't owe anyone an explanation. I know who you are. I see how you treat this business as if it were your own, how you care for the customers, how you haven't left me alone for a single day since you got here." Jennifer felt her eyes well up with emotion. No one had ever stood up for her like that. "Dad," Rachel said, her voice softer. "I didn't mean to offend. It's just what? It's just that I'm afraid you'll get hurt again, that someone will take advantage of you like Vanessa is doing." The tension in the air eased slightly with that confession. Jennifer realized that beneath the hostility, Rachel truly cared for her father. "Sweetheart, I know you care, but you can't come back into my life after all this time and try to control everything." "I don't want to control. I feel so guilty, Dad." "Guilty about what?" "About leaving, about abandoning you, about the awful things I said before I left." Robert hesitated, then stepped closer to his daughter. "Rachel, you're not guilty of anything. You were hurting. You lost your mother too. I was the terrible father who couldn't handle my own grief and ended up pushing you away." "No, Dad, you weren't terrible. You just got lost too." Father and daughter looked at each other for a moment, as if recognizing one another after a long time. Then Rachel took a step forward and hugged Robert. He wrapped his arms around her, and they both cried quietly. Jennifer watched the scene with emotion, holding Ethan close. It was beautiful to see two people wounded by the same loss trying to find their way back to each other. After a few minutes, they pulled apart and Rachel turned to Jennifer. "I'm sorry for what I said earlier. I was unfair. You don't have to apologize. I understand your concern for your dad. It's just hard to see someone in the place that should have been mine. I should have been the one helping him here, taking care of him. Nothing's stopping you from doing that now, Jennifer suggested. What do you mean? Your dad needs a present daughter more than money to pay off debts, and I can work somewhere else if you two want to rebuild your relationship. No, Robert said quickly. Jennifer, you're not going anywhere. And Rachel, you're always welcome here. But I won't let you mistreat someone who's helped me. Rachel took a deep breath. Dad, about my offer to settle your debts. I don't want your money, sweetheart. I want you back in my life. But Vanessa is my problem. I'll handle it. No, Dad. Let me help. But not by selling the store. What if I moved back to the neighborhood? I could work at the store in the mornings and keep my job in Indianapolis in the afternoons, at least for a while? Robert looked at his daughter in surprise. You'd do that? I would. If Jennifer doesn't mind sharing the work with me. Jennifer smiled. Of course I don't mind. It'd be wonderful to have you here. Just then, the store door opened and Vanessa walked in, accompanied by the man in the suit who had been there earlier. She stopped abruptly when she saw Rachel. Well, well, the prodigal daughter returns, Vanessa said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Vanessa, Rachel replied coldly. Michael told me you were here talking to your father. I hope it was to convince him to be more cooperative with our negotiations. Actually, I came to settle this matter for good, said Rachel, pulling an envelope from her pocket. Here's a check for the full amount of my father's debt. Principal, interest, and everything else. Vanessa took the envelope and inspected the check. Her expression changed completely. Where did you get this money? That's none of your business. What matters is, the debt is paid. Rachel, I don't want you spending your savings on me, protested Mr. Wilson. Dad, it's not my savings. When Mom passed, she left a life insurance policy you never knew about. The money came to me because you were too distraught to handle the paperwork. I've held on to it all these years, waiting for the right time to use it. Mr. Wilson was speechless. Catherine had left a life insurance policy, and he never knew. Mom took it out without telling you, Rachel continued. She knew you'd feel guilty, that you'd think she was preparing to leave, but she wanted to make sure you'd be okay after she was gone. Catherine, murmured Mr. Wilson, wiping his damp eyes. Vanessa looked at the check again, then at Michael. Well, if the debt's paid, we have nothing left to discuss here, she said, clearly annoyed at losing her leverage over Mr. Wilson. Exactly, Rachel agreed, and I hope you won't bother my father again. After Vanessa and Michael left, the store fell silent. Mr. Wilson sank into a chair behind the counter, as if his legs could no longer hold him. Catherine took care of me even after she was gone, he said, his voice thick. She loved you so much, Dad, and she wanted you to be happy, Rachel said, resting a hand on his shoulder. And I wasted 3 years of our time together because of pride and stubbornness. We didn't waste anything, Dad. Sometimes we need distance to understand the value of what we have. I needed those 3 years to grow, to realize you were grieving too, that you'd also lost the most important person in your life. Jennifer watched the father and daughter reconcile with a mix of joy and melancholy. It was beautiful to see a family reuniting, but it also made her think of her own loneliness, of how much she missed her own father. Jennifer, Rachel said, interrupting her thoughts, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Gabriel's father. Have you heard from him? No. He disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy, said he wasn't ready to be a dad and vanished. Have you ever tried to find him? Why? If he didn't want anything to do with his own son, I won't force someone to take on responsibilities they don't want. But Ethan has the right to know his father. Ethan has the right to have people who love him in his life. If his biological father doesn't want to be part of that, that's his problem. Mr. Wilson, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Jennifer's right. Family isn't just blood. It's who stays, who cares, who looks out for you. Ethan has a mother who loves him, and now he has us too. Us? Rachel asked. Of course. Jennifer is your mother's cousin. That makes her family, and Ethan is family too. Rachel smiled for the first time since she'd arrived. That's true. Welcome to the crazy Wilson family, Ethan, she said, tickling the baby, who giggled happily. That afternoon, the three of them worked together in the store for the first time. Rachel remembered many routines from her teenage years, helping her parents, and quickly readjusted. Jennifer watched the dynamic between father and daughter, noticing how alike they were, not just in looks, but in the warm way they treated customers. Around 5 o'clock, Mrs. Beatrice came in for her daily shopping and nearly shrieked with joy when she saw Rachel. "Oh my goodness, Rachel! What a joy to see you here, sweetheart!" "Hi, Mrs. Beatrice. How are you?" "I'm fine, but I'm even better now seeing you two together again. Your mother would be so happy." "You're right," agreed Rachel, looking at her father affectionately. Mrs. Beatrice did her shopping while chatting cheerfully with everyone. As she was leaving, she turned to Jennifer. "And you, dear, it's so good you brought this family back together. Sometimes God uses angels to mend broken hearts." After the woman left, Rachel commented, "Mrs. Beatrice is right. You came here at just the right time, Jennifer. Not just for Dad, but for me, too." "How so?" "If you hadn't shown up, I would have never known Dad was struggling. Mrs. Beatrice only called me because she got worried seeing a woman with a child working here. She thought you might be taking advantage of him, so she let me know." "So you came here to investigate me?" Jennifer asked, amused. "I came to protect my father from a possible scammer," Rachel admitted, laughing. "But I ended up finding out the scammer was actually a long-lost cousin who was taking better care of him than his own daughter." That evening, after closing the store, the three of them walked together to Mrs. Margaret's house. Rachel had decided to stay in town for a few days to get things in order, and Mr. Wilson offered the guest room in the apartment above the store. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Rachel said during the walk. "Of course. Why did you never tell me about Mom's insurance?" "Because I didn't know. Catherine handled all of that herself. She was always more organized than me with paperwork." "No, Dad. She told me you knew, that you two had talked about it." Mr. Wilson stopped walking and thought for a moment. "Now that you mention it, she did bring up insurance once, but at the time, I was so focused on her treatments that I didn't pay attention. I thought it was just more hospital paperwork. She was sad you didn't care. She said you were so worried about the present that you forgot to think about the future." "Another thing I got wrong," Mr. Wilson sighed. "No, Dad, you didn't do anything wrong. You were desperate trying to save the person you loved most. Anyone in your place would have done the same." Jennifer watched the conversation between father and daughter, noticing how they were slowly unraveling years of misunderstandings and hurt. "You know what I think?" she said. "I think Catherine planned all of this. The insurance, the earrings that led me here, Rachel coming back at just the right time. She wanted you two to find each other again." "You believe in that kind of thing?" Rachel asked. "I believe the people we love find ways to take care of us even after they're gone. Maybe not in a supernatural way, but through the seeds of love they planted in our lives." Mr. Wilson smiled. "Catherine always said, true love doesn't end with life, that it lives on in the people we touch, the lives we change. And you two are proof of that," Jennifer added. "The love she planted in you is blooming now, bringing you back to each other." They arrived at Mrs. Margaret's house, where she invited them in for coffee. During the conversation, they learned that she had also known Catherine from the days when she used to visit Joseph's Market. "Mrs. Catherine was a special person," Mrs. Margaret said. "She always had a kind word for everyone. When I heard she was gone, I was heartbroken, and it hurt even more seeing how lost Mr. Wilson was afterward." "Have you known Jennifer long?" Rachel asked. "About 6 months. She showed up here looking for a place to live with her baby. She was in a tough spot, but she's always been hardworking and honest. Never gave me any trouble." "And she never mentioned having family in the neighborhood?" "Never. In fact, she always said Ethan was all she had in the world. That's why I was surprised when I found out she got a job at Mr. Wilson's Market. It seemed like fate." Rachel and Robert exchanged glances. It really did feel like destiny had conspired to bring their lives together. The next morning, Jennifer arrived at the market and found father and daughter already working side by side. It was clear they had spent the night talking and resolving many unresolved matters. "Good morning," she said. "How was your first night together after so long?" "It was good," Rachel replied. "We talked late into the night. My dad told me how hard it was to take care of Mom alone, and I told him how hard it was to deal with the guilt of leaving. And did you come to any conclusions? We did, Robert said. We realized we both made mistakes, but that doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what we do from here on out. And what will you do? Well, Rachel said, we talked about it. I decided to request a transfer from my job to Chicago. I want to move back to the neighborhood at least for a while. That's wonderful. Your dad will be so happy. What about you, Jennifer? Robert asked. How do you feel about Rachel coming back? Won't you feel like an outsider? Of course not. This is your family. I'm the one who's grateful to have been welcomed in. No, Jennifer, Rachel interjected. You weren't just welcomed. You brought our family back together. If it weren't for you, my dad would still be alone, and I'd still be far away, too proud to take the first step. Ethan, who had been watching everything from his stroller, clapped his hands as if applauding the conversation. Everyone laughed. He agrees, Jennifer said. Children always know when adults are doing the right thing, Robert remarked. That day, a regular customer at the market made a comment that caught everyone's attention. Mr. Wilson, it's been a long time since I've seen the store this lively. It feels like the days of Mrs. Catherine again. Rachel and Jennifer exchanged glances. It was true, there was a different energy in the air, lighter and more welcoming. It's because the family is together again, Robert replied, smiling at both women. Later that afternoon, a special package arrived. It was a frame Robert had ordered. Inside it, he had placed Jennifer's earrings alongside a photo of Catherine wearing the identical pair. I want this to stay here in the store, he said, to always remind us that family isn't just who you're born with, but who chooses to stay together. Jennifer was moved to see the framed earrings. It was as if her grandmother and Catherine were symbolically reunited, healing a separation that had lasted generations. Thank you, she said, tears in her eyes. My grandmother would be so happy knowing the family is united again. And your grandmother? Do you know more about her? Rachel asked. I have some old letters and photos. She always talked about a dear cousin she lost touch with because of old family quarrels. Catherine mentioned that too. She said she wished she could see her cousin again. Maybe they have, Robert said, looking at the frame. In their own way. In the weeks that followed, the market's routine changed completely. Rachel got her transfer and moved back to the neighborhood. She and Jennifer took shifts, and Robert was finally able to slow down a little. Ethan became the store's mascot. Customers loved playing with him, and he was always showered with treats and affection. He seemed like a very loved little boy, surrounded by family. One afternoon, while Jennifer was organizing inventory with Rachel, she asked a question that had been on her mind for days. Rachel, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you never marry, start a family? Rachel sighed. I dated a few times, but nothing serious. After Mom passed, I closed myself off to relationships. I used to think I couldn't trust anyone, that everyone would abandon me sooner or later. And now? Now I realize I was afraid to love and suffer the way I saw my father suffer. But I also understood that suffering is part of love, and that it's worth taking the risk. Do you want to have children someday? I do, and you know what? Being with Ethan made me realize how much I want that. He reminds me there's hope, that we can always start over. Ethan, who was playing on the floor with some toys given to him by customers, looked up at the two of them and smiled. I think he understands what we're saying, said Jennifer. Children always understand more than we think. They feel the love around them. One day, an unexpected event brought another twist to their lives. A young man around 30 years old walked into Joseph's Market looking for Jennifer. At first, she didn't recognize him, but when he introduced himself, she was stunned. Jennifer, are you Jennifer Thompson Anderson? Yes, that's me. Who's asking? My name is Jason Miller. I'm Ethan's father. Silence filled the store. Rachel, who was at the register, stopped what she was doing. Mr. Wilson, who was stocking shelves, turned to watch the scene. Jennifer felt the world spin. After 2 years without a word, Jason had appeared out of nowhere. What are you doing here? She asked, instinctively stepping between him and Ethan. I came looking for you. I want to meet my son. Now you want to meet him? Where were you when he was born? When he got sick? when I stayed up nights not knowing how I'd feed him? Jennifer, I know I messed up. I know I was a coward. But I've changed, I've grown, I want to take responsibility. Responsibility? Jennifer's voice trembled. You think responsibility is something you take on when you feel like it? Mr. Wilson stepped closer, seeing how shaken Jennifer was. Excuse me, he said to Jason. Can you explain who you are and why you're here? I'm Jason, Ethan's biological father. I came to get my family. Get? Rachel cut in. What do you mean, get? I want to take Jennifer and Ethan with me. I want us to be a real family. Jennifer laughed bitterly. A real family? Where were you when I needed a real family? Where were you when your son cried from hunger and I didn't even have money for milk? I was young. I wasn't ready. And I was. Do you think anyone is born ready to be a mother? The difference is I stayed and fought while you ran away. Ethan, who was in Rachel's arms, started crying. He sensed the tension in the air and reacted with discomfort. See, Jason said. He doesn't even know me. That's not right. A child needs his father. A child needs people who love and care for him, Mr. Wilson countered. And Ethan has that here. And who are you? Her boyfriend? I'm someone who was here when you weren't, Mr. Wilson replied firmly. The argument was heating up when Mrs. Beatrice walked into the store. She immediately sensed the tension. What's going on here? She asked. Nothing, Mrs. Beatrice, Jennifer said, trying to calm down. Just a conversation. A conversation that's making Ethan upset, the older woman observed. Who is this young man? I'm Ethan's father, Jason replied. Mrs. Beatrice looked him up and down with an unfriendly expression. Oh, it's you, the one who disappeared when he found out he was going to be a father. Do you know me? I know your story, and I didn't like what I heard. A man who abandons a pregnant woman doesn't even deserve to be called a man. Listen here, ma'am. No, you listen, young man. You don't get to show up after 2 years making demands. This girl suffered a lot because of you. Jason was clearly uncomfortable with the hostility around him. He looked around and realized everyone was against him. Jennifer, can we talk in private? He asked. Anything you have to say can be said in front of everyone. These people are my family. Family? How long have you known them? Long enough to know they're good people who genuinely care about me and Ethan. And I don't care. You care now that you've decided to care. But where was your concern when I needed it most? Jason took a deep breath, trying to control his irritation. Jennifer, let's be practical. I have a good job now, a house, the means to give you both a better life. Do you want to keep living in this poverty? The question deeply offended Jennifer. Poverty? You're calling my life poverty? Isn't that what this is? A rented room, a job at a market. I have dignity. I have people who respect and value me. I have a home where I'm loved. That's worth more than all the money in the world. Jennifer's right, said Rachel. Money doesn't make a family. Love and presence do. And you think you know what's best for my son? Your son? Robert couldn't hold back. Your son isn't an object you can claim when it suits you. He's a child with a devoted mother and a family who loves him. A family that's not biological. The biological family is you who disappeared, Rachel shot back. The real family is the one who stayed. At that moment, Ethan stopped crying and looked straight at Jason. Instead of reaching out like he did with familiar people, he shrank further into Rachel's lap. Even Ethan knows you're a stranger, Mrs. Beatrice observed. Jason was visibly shaken by the child's reaction. That can change. I can earn his trust. Trust takes time and dedication, said Jennifer. Things you didn't show when it mattered most. Jennifer, I've changed. I've grown. I'm ready to be a good father. Maybe so, but I'm not ready to believe you again. So you'll deny me the right to know my son? I won't deny anything, but I won't make it easy either. If you've really changed, if you really care, you'll have to prove it with actions, not words. How? Start by respecting the choices I've made for my son. He has a life here, people who love him. You can't just show up and want to change everything. Jason looked around once more, realizing he had no support. I have legal rights, Jennifer. And I have legal duties, she replied. 2 years of duties I handled alone. This doesn't have to turn into a legal battle. That's up to you. If you accept that things have to be on my terms, we can talk. If you want to impose your will, you'll have to find another way. Robert stepped closer to Jennifer and placed a hand on her shoulder in a gesture of support. Jennifer isn't alone, he said. If you want to cause trouble for her, you'll have to deal with me too. And me, added Rachel. And me, finished Mrs. Beatrice. Jason realized he was facing a united family determined to protect Jennifer and Ethan. He sighed and softened his tone. Look, everyone, I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just want a chance to know my son. A chance? Jennifer asked. What kind of chance? Let me visit him sometimes. Let me be part of his life, little by little. Under what conditions? Whatever conditions you want. Jennifer looked at Robert and Rachel, seeking support for her decision. They gestured that the choice was hers. All right, she said finally. You can visit Ethan, but with some rules. What rules? First, visits happen here at Joseph's Market with other people present. You don't take him anywhere until I trust you, okay? Second, you don't make promises you can't keep. If you say you'll come on a certain day, you come. If you can't, you let me know ahead of time. Understood. Third, you respect the people who care for him. No disrespectful comments about our lives or our choices. I agree. And fourth, if at any point I feel your visits are harming Ethan or me, they stop immediately. Jason nodded. Can I ask when the first visit would be? Next Saturday at 2 in the afternoon for 1 hour. Just 1 hour? To start. If all goes well, we can gradually increase it. All right, Saturday at 2. After Jason left, the store fell silent for a few minutes. Everyone was processing what had just happened. You did the right thing, Rachel said finally. Did I? Jennifer asked uncertainly. You did, Mr. Wilson confirmed. Ethan has the right to know his biological father, but you also have the right to protect him from anyone who might hurt him. What if he's really changed? What if I'm being unfair? Then he'll prove it with time and patience, Mrs. Beatrice said. A man worth his salt doesn't give up at the first hurdle. Ethan had stopped crying and was now playing quietly in Rachel's lap, as if nothing had happened. At least he's okay, Jennifer observed. Children are resilient, Mr. Wilson said. He feels safe with us. That night, after closing the store, Jennifer talked at length with Mr. Wilson and Rachel about the situation with Jason. Do you think I'm doing the right thing by giving him a chance? She asked. I think you're being a responsible mother, Rachel replied. You're protecting your son but not keeping him from knowing his father. What if Jason decides to take legal action? Then we'll fight too, Mr. Wilson said. We have 2 witnesses who can testify that you're an exemplary mother and that Ethan is a well-cared-for and loved child. That gives me strength, Jennifer admitted, knowing I'm not alone in this. You'll never be alone again, Rachel promised. We're family now. Saturday arrived, and with it Jason's first visit. He showed up at Joseph's Market right at 2, bringing a gift for Ethan, a teddy bear. Can I give this to him? Jason asked hesitantly. You can, Jennifer replied. Jason approached Ethan, who was sitting on the floor playing with wooden blocks. The child looked at him curiously but without fear. Hi, Ethan, Jason said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm your daddy. Ethan took the teddy bear and examined it with interest, but showed no special reaction to Jason's presence. He doesn't recognize me, Jason said sadly. He was too young when you left, Jennifer explained. It's normal he wouldn't remember. Jason spent the whole hour trying to play with Ethan, but the child was more interested in his toys than in his biological father. He was polite, but showed no particular affection. Can I hold him? Jason asked. You can try, Jennifer said. When Jason reached out for Ethan, the child hesitated and then turned to Jennifer, seeking her arms instead. Don't force it, Rachel advised. Let him get used to you at his own pace. Jason looked visibly frustrated, but tried to hide it. I understand, it'll take time. When the hour was up, Jason said goodbye. Can I come back next week? You can, Jennifer agreed. Same time. After he left, Mr. Wilson remarked, He seems sincere. He does, Jennifer agreed. But words are easy. I want to see if he'll have the patience to earn Ethan's trust little by little. Jason's visits became a weekly routine. Gradually, Ethan began to get used to him and even showed some happiness when he saw him arrive. Jason proved to be patient and dedicated, never missing the commitments he had made. One day, after nearly 2 months of regular visits, Jason asked a question that surprised Jennifer. "Jennifer, can I ask how you managed to get out of that terrible situation you were in when we separated? Why do you want to know?" "Because I admire your strength. When I left, you were in a really tough spot. Seeing how you built a decent life for the two of you, it's impressive." Jennifer looked at him in surprise. It was the first time Jason had openly acknowledged the hardships she had faced. "It wasn't easy," she admitted. "There were times I thought I wouldn't make it." "What gave you the strength to keep going?" "Ethan, knowing he depended on me, and also the kindness of people like Mr. Wilson, Rachel, Mrs. Beatrice. They showed me I wasn't truly alone in the world." "I was an idiot," Jason said softly. "You were," Jennifer agreed without bitterness. "But that was a long time ago. What matters now is what you're doing to change." "Can I tell you why I left?" Jennifer hesitated. Part of her didn't want to know, but another part felt she needed to understand. "Go ahead. When you told me you were pregnant, I panicked. My parents had split up when I was a kid because of an unplanned pregnancy. My father always said I ruined his life, that he had to give up his dreams because of me. And you were afraid of repeating your parents' story." "Exactly. I was 22, just starting college. I had dreams. And suddenly, I was in the same situation as my father. I was scared of turning out like him, of blaming you two for my unhappiness. So you chose to run away." "I chose to run. I thought it would be better for everyone. That you'd find someone better. That Ethan would grow up without the pressure of having a father who didn't want him. But now you've changed your mind. Now I understand my father was wrong. Kids don't destroy dreams. They create new ones. And being a father isn't an obligation. It's a privilege." Jennifer studied Jason for a moment. There was sincerity in his words, a maturity that hadn't been there 2 years ago. "And what do you want now, Jason? What's your goal with these visits?" "I want to be Ethan's father. I don't want to replace anyone, and I don't want to disrupt the life you've built. I just want to be part of it, in a healthy way." "What about me? You said you wanted us to be a family." "I did, and I still do. But I've realized that's not something I can demand or force. If one day you want to give us a chance as a couple, it'll be your choice, not my pressure." This conversation marked a shift in the dynamic between Jennifer and Jason. The visits continued, but with less tension. Ethan started calling Jason Daddy J, a nickname that came naturally and that everyone respected. One day, Robert surprised everyone with an unexpected proposal. "Folks, I have an idea," he said during lunch. "How about we throw a party to celebrate 6 months of our family being reunited?" "What kind of party?" Rachel asked. "A party right here at the store, after hours. We can invite the neighbors, the regular customers. Make it a neighborhood gathering." "That would be lovely," Jennifer said, "a way to thank everyone who's welcomed us." "And we could use it to officially launch the store's new chapter," Rachel suggested. "New chapter?" "Dad, we've talked about this. What if we turned the market into a community hub, not just selling products but offering services for the neighborhood?" Robert grew interested in the idea. "What kind of services?" "Literacy classes for adults, craft workshops, a space for mothers to share parenting experiences, things that strengthen the community." "What about Jason?" asked Jennifer. "Would you mind if I invited him to the party?" "Of course not," replied Robert. "He's Ethan's father, part of the extended family now." The party was scheduled for a Saturday evening. For 2 weeks, everyone pitched in to prepare. Rachel took care of decorations, Jennifer handled the desserts, and Robert managed the savory dishes. Neighbors volunteered to help, turning the preparations into a community effort. Mrs. Beatrice insisted on making her famous chicken pie. Mrs. Margaret offered homemade chocolate truffles. Other neighbors brought sodas, drinks, and more food. The party was turning out bigger than anyone had imagined. On the day of the party, Joseph's Market was unrecognizable. Colorful streamers and lights decorated the space, Tables were set up in the backyard, and a contagious joy filled the air. Ethan was in Rachel's arms, wearing a new outfit Jason had bought for him. "Everything looks wonderful," Jason said to Jennifer. "It really does. It's so nice to see so many happy people together." "Jennifer, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you happy here? With the life you've built?" Jennifer looked around. She saw Robert chatting animatedly with neighbors, telling stories from when Catherine was still alive. She saw Rachel playing with Ethan and other neighborhood kids. She saw Mrs. Beatrice running the kitchen as if she were the hostess. She saw hard-working, humble people who had opened their hearts to her and her son. "I'm very happy," she replied. "Happier than I ever thought possible. Even without much money, without owning a home, without... Jason, don't you see yet? Happiness isn't about what we have, it's about who we love and who loves us back." "You're right. It took me a long time to learn that." During the party, Robert gave a speech that moved everyone. "Friends, family, neighbors," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "6 months ago, I was a lost, bitter man who had forgotten how good it feels to share life with others. Then a young woman with a child showed up, offering an earring in exchange for milk, and everything changed." He looked at Jennifer fondly. "Jennifer, you didn't just bring new life to this store. You brought my daughter back, you brought joy back, you brought hope back. And you showed a stubborn old man like me that family isn't just blood. It's choice, it's love, it's presence." Applause filled the room. Jennifer was moved to tears. "Rachel," Robert continued, "my dear daughter, thank you for forgiving me, for coming back, for giving me a second chance to be the father you deserve." Rachel stepped forward and hugged her father, crying as well. "And Ethan," Robert said, lifting the child into his arms, "you're the light of our family. You've taught us that it's always possible to start over, to love again." Ethan clapped his little hands, making everyone laugh. "Finally," Robert said, looking at Jason. "Jason, thank you for having the humility to admit your mistakes and the courage to make things right. You're showing your son what it means to be a real man." Jason was visibly touched by the acknowledgement. "Now," Robert said, raising a glass of soda, "a toast to our crazy family, our welcoming community, and all the new beginnings life offers us." "Cheers!" everyone shouted in unison. The party lasted late into the night. There was music, dancing, laughter, and endless conversation. Ethan dozed off in different people's arms, always safe and loved. At the end of the night, when everyone had left and they were cleaning up, Jennifer took a moment to reflect. 6 months ago, I was in the worst phase of my life. I had no hope, no prospects, no family. "And now?" asked Rachel. "Now I have all that and more. I have a family who chose to love me, a job that gives me dignity, a community that welcomed me. And you have an ex-boyfriend who's trying hard to be a better person," added Mr. Wilson, looking at Jason. "I do," agreed Jennifer. "And that's important for Ethan too." Jason stepped closer to her. "Jennifer, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." Would you go out with me someday? Not out of obligation, not because of Ethan, but because maybe we could try building something new together." Jennifer looked at him for a long moment. 2 years ago, that question would have filled her with anger or contempt. Now she saw a different man, more mature, genuinely trying to make amends. "Let's take it slow, Jason. Very slow." "Is that a yes?" "It's a maybe. A maybe that could turn into a yes if you keep showing you've really changed. I can live with a maybe." He smiled. 3 months after the party, Joseph's Market had become much more than a store. It was truly a community hub. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings, Rachel taught literacy classes for adults. On Thursday and Friday afternoons, Jennifer ran a support group for single mothers. On Saturdays, there were craft workshops led by Mrs. Beatrice and other neighborhood ladies. The change brought not only social benefits but financial ones too. The store was always busy, not just with customers, but with people joining activities and ending up buying products right there. Ethan, now almost 2, was growing up strong and healthy, surrounded by love on all sides. He called Mr. Wilson Grandpa Bob, Rachel Auntie Rach, Mrs. Beatrice Granny B, and had a warm but still cautious relationship with Jason. Then came news no one expected. A reporter from a local paper had heard about the market's story and wanted to write about the social project they'd developed. "A newspaper article?" Jennifer asked nervously. "It's good. It'll bring visibility to your work," the reporter said. "Stories like this inspire others to do similar things in their communities." "But we didn't do anything extraordinary," Mr. Wilson protested. "We're just looking out for each other." "That's exactly what makes it special," the reporter replied. "In hard times, you've shown it's possible to build family and community based on love and solidarity." The article ran in a Sunday edition and had a much bigger impact than anyone anticipated. People from other neighborhoods started coming to the market, wanting to learn about the project and get inspired to create similar things in their own communities. One of those visitors brought an unexpected surprise. A well-dressed woman around 60 introduced herself as Susan Miller. "Excuse me," she said to Jennifer. "Are you the Jennifer who was interviewed in the paper?" "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" "My name is Susan Miller. I read the article and, well, I have a bit of a strange question." "What question?" "The paper mentioned your grandmother was Elizabeth Miller Johnson. Do you know if she had a sister named Rose?" Jennifer's heart raced. "She did. Rose was my grandmother's twin sister. They had a falling out when they were young and never spoke again." Susan began to cry. "Rose was my mother. That means we're cousins." The revelation caused a stir in the store. Mr. Wilson and Rachel came over to see what was happening, and soon Susan was telling her story. "My mother always talked about the twin sister she lost touch with over a silly fight about their parents' inheritance. She regretted her whole life for not trying to make amends." "My grandmother too," said Jennifer, emotional. "She always said she missed her sister Rose." "And now you've found each other through your grandchildren," Rachel remarked. "It's as if they conspired from above to reunite the family." Susan looked at Ethan, who was playing on the floor. "So this beautiful boy is my relative too?" "Yes," Jennifer confirmed. "He's Rose's great-grandson. Can I hold him?" Ethan, a sociable child, let Susan pick him up without resistance. She held him tenderly, tears streaming freely. "My mother would be so happy knowing her family continues, that the Miller name wasn't lost." "The Miller family is quite large now," said Robert. "It includes the Wilsons too." "How so?" Robert explained the whole story of the earrings, the connection with Catherine, the family that formed around Joseph's market. "What an incredible story," Susan said. "It really feels like fate conspired to bring all these people together." "Do you have family, Susan?" Jennifer asked. "I have 2 grown children and 4 grandchildren. They'll all be thrilled to know we found long-lost relatives." Susan's arrival added a new dimension to the family that had formed. She lived in a nearby neighborhood and soon became a constant presence at the market, helping with community activities and doting on Ethan as if he were her own grandchild. Her children and grandchildren also started visiting the store, creating an even wider family network. Ethan now had cousins to play with, uncles and aunts to visit him, grandparents in abundance. Jason watched this growing family dynamic with admiration. "Jennifer," he said one day, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "Watching you with this whole family that's formed around you makes me understand what being a father truly means." "How so?" "Being a father isn't just giving DNA to a child. It's creating an environment of love and safety around them. It's making sure they have people who care for them, protect them, teach them values." "That's true, and you've done that magnificently." Ethan doesn't just have a mother. He has an entire family who loves him. Thanks to the kindness of people like Mr. Wilson and Rachel, thanks to your heart, which knew how to recognize and cherish that kindness. Not everyone could turn a desperate situation into a love story like this. Jennifer looked at Jason with more tenderness than she'd felt in a long time. "You've really changed, haven't you?" "I have. And one of the biggest changes was understanding that loving someone isn't about possessing them. It's about wanting what's best for them, even if that doesn't include you." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know that no matter what happens between us, I'll always support the choices you make. If you decide to stay with me, great. If you decide we're better as friends and co-parents to Ethan, that's great too. Jason's attitude completed the transformation Jennifer needed to see in him. It was a sign he'd truly matured, that he understood love as generosity rather than possession. "Jason," she said, making a decision, "how about we have dinner together next Friday? Just the two of us, without Ethan." "Really?" he asked, eyes shining. "Really, but just dinner, okay? No big expectations." "Understood. Just dinner between two adults rediscovering each other." The news of Jennifer's dinner with Jason sparked mixed reactions in the family. Robert and Rachel were happy, believing everyone deserved a second chance at love. Mrs. Beatrice was worried, thinking Jennifer was rushing things. Susan was curious to get to know Ethan's father better. "Jennifer," Rachel said, "can I give you some unsolicited advice? Go ahead. Don't rush into permanent decisions. You have time. Ethan is fine. You're fine. Let things flow naturally." That's what I'm trying to do. And remember, you don't owe Jason anything. This dinner is a favor you're doing for him, not an obligation. The dinner took place at a small pizzeria in the neighboring district. Nothing too fancy, but cozy and private. Jennifer had asked Susan to look after Ethan for the evening, and the woman was delighted at the chance to spend time with her honorary grandson. "You look beautiful," Jason said when he saw her arrive. "Thank you. You look nice too." They sat down and began talking. At first, the atmosphere was a little tense, but gradually they relaxed and chatted naturally about various things. "Can I ask you something I've always wondered?" Jason said. "Go ahead." "How did you keep hope alive during the hardest moments? When I left you, when you had no money, when Ethan got sick?" Jennifer thought for a moment before answering. "I think it was Ethan who kept me strong. When you look at a child who depends entirely on you, you don't have the luxury of giving up. You find strength you didn't even know you had. And after, when you met Mr. Wilson and Rachel, then it got easier. I realized I wasn't truly alone in the world, that there are good people willing to help without expecting anything in return." Did that make it easier to forgive the people who hurt you? "It helped me understand that everyone carries their own pain and fears. It doesn't justify hurting others, but it explains a lot, including me, including you." They kept talking late into the evening. Jason shared about his therapy, how he'd worked through his issues with abandonment and fear of commitment. Jennifer talked about learning to trust again, how the Wilson family had healed her ability to love. "Jennifer," Jason said as they said goodbye, "no matter what happens between us, I want you to know you're the bravest person I've ever met." "Why?" "Because you took an impossible situation and turned it into something beautiful. Because you taught your son that family is who stays, not who leaves. Because you gave me a second chance when you had every reason not to." Jennifer smiled. "You know what I've learned, Jason? Holding on to resentment hurts us more than the person who hurt us. Forgiving isn't a favor we do for others. It's a gift we give ourselves." That conversation marked the start of a new chapter in Jennifer and Jason's relationship. They began meeting regularly, not as lovers, but as friends rediscovering each other. Ethan responded well to his father's more frequent presence. He started calling Jason just Dad instead of Daddy J, and showed genuine joy whenever he arrived. 6 months after that first dinner, Jason made a surprising proposal. "Jennifer, I have an idea," he said during one of their visits to Joseph's Market. "What idea?" "How about I move here to this neighborhood? That way, I could be closer to Ethan and you without pressuring anyone. You'd leave your apartment to live here." "I would. This place has become special to me too. I like the people, the energy, seeing Ethan growing up in a community like this." Jennifer discussed the idea with Robert and Rachel. Both thought it would be good for Ethan to have his father nearby, as long as Jason respected the boundaries they'd set. "And you, Jennifer?" Rachel asked. "How do you feel about it?" "Good, I think. It's strange because 2 years ago I hated the idea of seeing him again. Now it feels natural for him to be part of our lives. Does that mean you're falling for him again?" "It means I'm learning to love him in a new way. Not as the 23-year-old girl who fell for an irresponsible boy, but as the woman I am today, who can see the man he's become." Jason found a small apartment 2 blocks from Joseph's Market. It was simple but clean and well located. He moved in on a Saturday with the help of Mr. Wilson and other neighbors who already considered him part of the community. "Welcome to the neighborhood officially," said Mrs. Beatrice, bringing a welcome cake. "Thank you, Mrs. Beatrice. I hope to be a good neighbor." "You already are. Anyone who makes Jennifer smile the way you have is welcome here." With Jason living nearby, their routine changed again. He started helping at the market on weekends, got involved in community activities, and became a constant presence in Ethan's life. One evening, after a particularly busy day at the store, Jennifer and Jason were alone tidying up, while Ethan slept in Rachel's arms. "Jennifer," Jason said, "can I ask you something important?" "Go ahead." "Do you think we could ever be a real family? Not necessarily married, but living together, raising Ethan together, building a future together." Jennifer stopped what she was doing and looked at him. "Is that what you want?" "It's what I want most in the world, but only if it's what you want too." "Jason, 2 years ago that question would have scared me. Today it gives me hope." "Hope?" "Yes. Because I see you understand that family isn't just putting 2 people and a child under one roof. It's building a life based on respect, partnership, and real love. And you think we have that? I think we're building it, slowly, patiently, honestly." "So, is that a yes?" "It's a let's keep building and see where it takes us. If we keep growing together like we have, if Ethan stays happy, if our family stays strong, who knows?" Jason smiled and moved closer. "Can I kiss you?" "You can." The kiss was gentle, tender, full of promises for the future. When they pulled apart, Jennifer felt at peace with herself and the choices she'd made. A year later, at Ethan's second birthday party, the family was officially complete. Jennifer and Jason had married in a simple ceremony at the market, with all their neighbors and friends present. Ethan ran around the store's courtyard surrounded by cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and friends. He was a joyful, secure child who knew nothing but the abundant love around him. "Look at that," said Susan, pointing to the boy. 2 years ago, he was a hungry baby in his desperate mother's arms. Now he's the center of a big, happy family. "It's amazing how life can change, isn't it?" Rachel remarked. "It's not life that changes," Mr. Wilson corrected. "It's us who change life when we choose love over fear." Jennifer, wearing the simple but beautiful wedding dress Mrs. Beatrice had sewn for her, looked around and saw the fulfillment of dreams she hadn't even known she had. "What are you thinking about?" Jason asked, stepping closer. "How everyone always says fairy tales don't exist in real life, but I think they do." "How so?" "Not like in children's books with princesses and castles, but the real kind, ordinary people helping each other, loving each other, building happiness together. And are we a fairy tale? We're a miracle. The miracle of a family formed not by blood, but by the choice to love." Just then Ethan came running to his parents, arms outstretched. Jason picked him up and lifted him high, making the boy laugh. "Daddy, Mommy, Grandpa, Bob," Ethan shouted, pointing to each. "He gets it," Jennifer said. "Family isn't about how it starts. It's about how it keeps going." The party lasted well into the night. There was music, dancing, plenty of food, and even more love. When everyone had left and the family was alone to clean up the mess, Robert gave a final speech. "Everyone, 3 years ago I was a lost man, thinking my life was over when Catherine passed away. Today, I know she didn't really leave. She's here, in every loving gesture we make, in every person we welcome, in every moment of happiness we share." He looked at Jennifer with fatherly affection. "Jennifer, you came here offering an earring in exchange for milk. But what you truly brought was new life for all of us. You taught us that family is a verb, not a noun. It's something we do every day, not something we inherit. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for opening your home and your heart to me and Ethan. I'm the one who's grateful. You gave me back the joy of living." Rachel stepped closer to her father and hugged him. "And thank you for teaching me it's never too late to ask for forgiveness and start over. You're the one who taught me that, my dear. By coming back, by forgiving, by giving me a second chance." Jason, who had been watching the scene with emotion, spoke up. "And thank you all for showing me what a real family means. for giving me the chance to be the father Ethan deserves." Ethan, exhausted from all the celebrating, had fallen asleep in Jennifer's arms. She looked at him with all the love in the world and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me that love always conquers fear, that family always conquers loneliness, that hope always conquers despair." And so, in a small grocery store in the Newtown neighborhood, a family that had begun with hunger and despair was completed with love and abundance. Not an abundance of money or material things, but an abundance of affection, respect, companionship, and genuine happiness. The golden earrings remained framed on the store's wall, a symbol of how fate can use the most unlikely coincidences to bring together people who need each other. And Joseph's Market continued to be not just a business, but a community gathering place where families were formed, friendships grew stronger, and miracles happened every day. The end of the story. So, dear listeners, what did you think of this touching story? Let us know in the comments which part moved your heart the most, and if you've heard similar stories in real life. Do you think Jennifer did the right thing by giving Jason a second chance? And what did you think of the family that formed around the grocery store? We'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one.